those joining us via the live stream. This is a meeting in an infinite series on language completeness and consistency. We have a number of topics today. They don't look to me to be the most exciting, but we'll see how they go.
They're really focusing on the consistency aspect today rather than the completeness.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. So let's start off with allowed heads.
Right. So we had this discussion last time about allowed heads.
Can we see some examples of where allowed heads is used?
I can send some. I thought.
What was the issue here? I mean, so this is the issue is when an allowed head is being taken from a function. So I mean, I could in principle have something like flatten, which, I mean, flatten implicitly, I don't know how does flatten deal with heads?
I'm pretty sure flatten only looks at list-like things.
No, it just did that.
Oh, it just did that. So yeah, so flatten would also be a case where we could possibly add this symbol.
Right. So let's take a look. Flatten, you see, flatten has a third argument, which gives flatten sub-expressions with head H. Okay? Now, we could also allow an option for allowed heads there. The question is, what is the setting for that option in the case where it is looking at the head that it has been presented with, right?
Correct.
Okay, so what was the case? So the issue is, so automatic will be one possible setting, but we wanted to use that for a different purpose. We wanted to use that for list, comma, association.
In the case of total, we wanted that to be list, comma, association. So we have, we might want slightly different defaults for different functions. So total, we want more than just list.
Right. Okay. So we want an automatic setting for that. And the question is, what do we want to call it when it is getting the, I mean, we also might want to be able to give something where we use a symbol to represent the top level symbol as well as, so for example, I could imagine something which looks like this, which means either it's the top level symbol as you were given it. By the way, we got a bunch of background noise. Can we try to cut that out? We got either it's the symbol as you were given it or it's list. Am I making sense? Did you
yes, that makes sense, Stephen.
Okay. So the question now is, but go ahead, but the big question is inherited, the wrong thing to use to represent the head you were given?
Right.
And I can see the argument that it is the wrong thing, because inherited is usually something which comes from outside rather than being a thing that you are now being applied to.
Mm-hmm. So this might be a little weird, but what about allowed heads goes to head?
I think that's really weird, because I mean, we're listing the head. I mean, that's like a function. I mean, if this we could do, but I think that that's not helping us really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I just feel, right. I feel that inherited is a little bit wrong because it's, I
agree it's slightly wrong.
And also automatic really feels to me like, right, automatic generally means do something sensible for this particular input. I mean, we do sometimes use it as to, well, we don't want to tell you exactly what we're doing, so we're just going to call it automatic. But in our better cases, automatic means look at the input and do something sensible.
Yeah, but I mean, your list of list association numeric array, byte array, that's not really look at the input. That's consider the function you're in, do something reasonable for that.
Right, which is why right. So Jose wouldn't like that to be automatic, but I'm like, that doesn't really feel automatic to me. I mean, we sometimes do that, but I think that's a relatively poor use of automatic.
It's relatively poor, but it's not terrible. And I mean, the alternative is we got all. Okay, who else has an idea here? The best idea I've seen is inherited, even though it is slightly wrong. It's wrong. It's frustratingly wrong. I mean, all. What would all mean?
All means any possible head. So anything normal it will go inside of.
Which for total would be pretty weird unless your lowest levels are all number queue, right? Because total of sine of 2 heads goes to all, allowed heads goes to all would give you 2.
Yeah, and flatten would be weird as well. But it's not totally useless. I mean, obviously, blank would be an alternative there as well.
Yeah, for flatten, it's actually not totally useless because it basically gives you all the atoms in the expression.
Right.
But what's the head?
Yeah.
Of the thing. Yeah.
Right. I mean, so if you had f of g of a
the
comma
original
b,
f, I assume that the g's disappear, but it's a little weird.
The issue with head is that's a difficult. So something we also would like in this design is we've made an incompatible change, okay, to basically so that total of 2 times pi doesn't give you 2 plus pi anymore, which is correct. But we want people to get an easy way to get back to the old behavior.
No, we don't. That behavior was insane, and nobody would use it.
Well, fine. All right.
That behavior was just a bug.
That's what apply plus is for.
Yeah, I don't believe Total will have documented that, and I think it should be considered a bug.
Did document that, which was completely insane. I agree, but
under possible issues, I hope.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's not go there. This is that was, okay. The question then is, by the way, Sandra on our live stream is asking why allowed heads doesn't have documentation. Probably because it doesn't exist yet. Yeah,
correct.
It doesn't exist yet. That's why it doesn't have documentation. It does have internal documentation, doesn't it?
It does.
If only I could open that. Yes. Okay. Oh, look at that list. That's convenient. I don't see. I mean, look. Okay. Our choices, I think, are quotes head, which I don't really like.
Mm-hmm.
Inherited, which I also don't really like. I think it's the least evil of the various possibilities.
Right. So, I would submit that for most of the functions, right, it's going to be, one or two things, right? The default is going to be list or it's
They're not going to list them out explicitly. It's just not, because it will grow and we want to be able to make it grow.
I mean, another possibility that we use in some places similar to automatic is full.
I see.
How would full not be all, though? I mean, who would know the difference is what I'm getting at. Or how do we document that?
Well, the same way we document the difference between full and all in plot range.
What is it?
Okay.
Here's the right card. Yeah.
Well, based on the description in the table, maybe an alternate for automatic would be default.
Yeah, but we can't use that. That's
It does have a different meaning. I agree.
Yeah, it's a different meaning. By the way, Sandra on our live stream is pointing out that in the documentation there's a transpose, allowed heads arrow all. What does transpose do with allowed heads?
Not a great deal. So this is one of the reasons why we hadn't documented it yet is that it was not very well implemented for transpose, which was the original motivation for the symbol. which is
Right. And also in transpose, it requires that heads at a given level all have to be the same, because otherwise we just can't do the transpose.
right. But basically, what it does is allows you to treat lists of arrays as, lists of associations or as arrays
transposable elements.
Right.
Unlike in what happens in maze or whatever. Sorry, that was a stupid pun. Okay. Look, I think inherited is the least evil of the possibilities that we see in front of us. That's what I think we should go with.
Okay.
I don't like it very much, but I think it's what we should go with.
So going back to that documentation notebook that you just closed a moment ago.
Yes.
So the table has list and association. And is list correct? I mean, if I...
Well, that's just wrong. I mean, when it says allow list, sparse array, and structure array, that's just wrong. Presumably.
Well, do we want to have a thing that's, say, quote, list representation then?
I mean, I'm wondering if we just want to go full in on named strings. Not necessarily head as the string head, but
yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So the string list would be different from the symbol list, or you're saying that we wouldn't have a string list, we would have like array heads or array or something like that.
Or generalized
I wouldn't know what array means. I mean, what it means is things which upon, I would give a definition. Upon applying normal, you get a list, but that would also apply to association.
And also column, for that matter. I mean, these are things which, you sort of automatically, right? These are things that listable functions automatically thread over, right? They're
list-like.
Yeah, they're
list representations.
Yeah, in fact, internally we have a function called list representation queue, which gives true for these guys.
Okay, listen. I think in this table we should take out the lines that say list and association. We should give automatic inherited all, and then the list of heads, the head and the list of heads. We should just take out those two lines.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Well, although should we have magic strings for the list representation?
I don't think we should bother. I think if in the future we need that, so be it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to be asking for just those versus data set or numeric array.
All right. I think we've got a path here. It's okay. Let's move on. Okay, so our next topic is sorting function.
Right. So to summarize the long thread is that where some of us are uncomfortable with the name sorting function.
Okay, but by the way, Sandra on our live stream is asking what automatic actually does. No, the conclusion is automatic takes the reasonable list of list and association-like things. And inherited takes the thing from the actual function as presented.
Right. And exactly what list, what list of heads may vary from function to function.
Of what automatic means.
Yes.
Yes. But by the way, so in transpose, the default would be inherited, right? For allowed heads.
I think it should stay list.
Is it list right now?
Yes.
Okay. As opposed to being, yeah, all right, fine. As opposed to, yeah, so an interesting question is, Okay, so if you said automatic, in that case, it would not be the default because the default will be list, but automatic would mean include also association and some other things. Is that correct?
Right.
You know, we better see a list for these various functions of what actually gets included in automatic. But I think the path we're on right now is a good start. And hopefully we can, you know, it will work.
Well, I mean, transpose, you can mix lists and sparse arrays and whatever. So it's automatic, right? It's not.
Okay, but then automatic does not include association. Correct?
Well,
not
it
the
includes
transpose.
some things in a different way. For example, numeric array, if you do transpose of a numeric array, it will transpose that. But if it's buried in list, it won't do it now. I believe that's correct anyway.
I think we need to hit that.
Which I think is a bug, but
Yeah, I agree with that.
Too. I think it's a bug.
Well, that's part of the whole decision is how far numeric array goes as representing a list, which is a big can of worms.
It is. Yes, it is. That is a very strange piece of background noise. Okay, well, I'm not sure. I think we've got a path forward. Let us try filling this out, and maybe it'll have to come back to this meeting.
okay.
Okay, sorting function. So this is the question of things like find faces. How do they sort the faces that come out? Or how does text search sort the pages that come out there? Although it might have a ranking function.
Right. So, and sort of the, you know, what, the point of view that sort of I've been taking and maybe that Jose and I have been taking, and I suppose it would be good to hear Danny's point of view, is that this should be called sort by function, because it's, you know, right. We talk about ordering functions, which are the things you give to sort, and then we have.
And the things you give to ordering?
Yes, so the things here, the argument you give to sorting function is not the thing you give to sort or ordering. It's the thing you give to sort by.
The second argument.
No, I understand. It's the argument to sort by. It's a whatever it is. It's a cardinal function or something as opposed to an ordinal. What are those things called? It's a ranking, not a comparator. Is that the point you're making?
Right. So that, you know, calling this, you know, so just basically we think sort by function would be, you know, sort of.
Why are we not calling it ordering function?
It doesn't order the things, though. It's just the function that it's a preprocessor, basically.
Post-processor.
It preprocessor to the sorting part.
No, it's exactly what the second argument of sort by does.
Which is a preprocessor before sorting. Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Why wouldn't that be called the sorting function?
Because we're adding another function to those that does the comparisons. And that gets there's an ambiguity there.
Right. Well, this is why we're saying it should be sort by function, right? Because
Then it's clear.
Just a horrible name. I mean, do we have a ranking function for text search yet? And if so, what would a ranking function? A ranking function is yet a different thing. A ranking function gives you a number or something from which you can rank things, right?
I'm not sure that that's really different, right?
No, I don't think it's really different. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Okay.
Well, yes, except, I mean, we can't call it ranking function because that's...
Oh, look at that.
Text.
Look at that. It was called sorting function inside text search as well.
Huh.
Right, that's those ARG people, right?
The ones that make you say ARG?
Yeah. It's the Cowboys. They don't necessarily follow their...
Now they're now operating a very stable farm.
Okay.
It's still a ranch.
They got a new gardener called Roger, and now it's really
right.
It's,
okay. So look, the reason I like sorting function is because it's a nice sounding name. I understand your point. I don't immediately, it doesn't hit me over the head with confusion. Can we please, whatever that background noise is, could we please try to mute it? Thanks. Okay. So, I mean, what are we objecting to here? The issue is that you are concerned that sorting function sounds like the binary comparator. Is that the problem?
right.
yes.
Right. It sounds like something you'd give to sort rather than something you'd give to sort by.
I don't buy this. I'm sorting. I don't. I mean, okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm just. I don't see that. I mean, I think it's okay. I think the description is an option that specifies a function by which to sort the results of a computation. Yeah. Blah. I just hate the name sort by function. Read it. See, it says sort by function.
Rank by.
No, it's the rank by function. It's like this one is a lieutenant, this one's a general. You know, I don't get it. Look, it's the wrong part of speech. It's got a you know, a preposition sitting in the middle there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could have
the preposition is finished by the right-hand side of that rule.
Come on.
Right.
Look,
Right.
if somebody sees sort by function, they're going to... What is that background noise? Come on, guys. What? It's not going to make it. Sort by function is just not something we can have. You know, I understand your objection, but I think it is the lesser of the evils. And sorting by function is even worse. You can't have by in the middle. I think we should move on. I think this is going to be okay. I think it's, you know, sorry, the human language does not provide an adequate solution here, and I think this is okay. And let's just check what it actually does. So it's given an association. And are we happy with what it actually does here? Guys?
Sorry, I was muted. I think you give it a pure function, and so it does. Or I think they maybe have magic strings also in certain cases. Or
That could be the case, yeah. But I mean, in this case here,
right.
okay.
So,
when it says the
find faces returns an association by default, right, for each thing. So
does it? Does it?
Or at least there is a mode in which it returns.
Yeah, there is a case in which it returns that. I'm not sure that that's the default return. So
Right.
it would have to be documented that the sorting function is applied to the association. Am I making
Right.
sense? Is there somebody from the image processing group here?
No, they're all out.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so. Okay, so that's an important thing. Sushma, you can maybe take that to them. That it has to be applied to the raw association, even if the return value isn't the whole association.
Right,
Okay.
which they claim, right, that sort of the advantage of having it as an option as opposed to your own.
Yes, it's their own thing. All right, let's move on. Okay, random choice does not document association.
Okay, so this is a complete and total mess, and I think I have some examples somewhere in that thread, and there's also a link to a bug report.
So random choice. So the issue is, so we have functions like nearest and like the machine learning functions that, to understand what it does, it can either take it takes a weight and a value, right? And I believe it takes it in that order in a list, and I believe it takes it in the other order in an association. Is that correct?
Right, which I think is kind of crazy, but
I don't think it's that crazy, actually. I think that that's if you look at the cases, like for machine learning, this is actually a quite good and reasonable thing to do. Okay, so let's look at the case.
Right, now random choice doesn't do that because random choice will work with any list, right? So if you give it a list of rules, it'll just pick one of the rules.
Right, which is why it has to have this exterior thing here. Okay,
Exactly.
so hold on. Let's take a look at nearest for a second. Where the heck is it documenting? Where is it documenting the association case? Maybe it doesn't have the association case.
I'm pretty sure.
No, there we go. Data can also be given an association is equivalent to value arrow key 1. Right. So in that case, it's right. Gives. So the nearestness is with respect to the first element here.
Yep. And the return value is the V.
Right. So the analogy in the case of random choice would be, I mean, the weight is the thing which you are randomly choosing with respect to. And that is consistent with this case here, right? The W arrow E's is consistent with this case here for nearest, right?
Yep.
So what that would leave is the case we do not have for random choice is this case here, right? But we still could have the case that goes, so for example, I should be able to say something like...
No. Those two guys are the same, right?
I'm going to claim that this should work. Okay, that should work. And that would be equivalent. So in the case of nearest, all right, we have, and so random choice. So this would be equivalent to random choice of 0.4, 0.6 arrow AB, right? And the only case that random choice does not support is this case here, 0.4 arrow A, 0.6 arrow B. Right?
Well, it'll work. It just won't do what you want it to do.
That's correct.
Right. So all three of I think all three of those will evaluate right now. And just the first one probably doesn't give you what you're expecting.
No, because we completed the wrong thing. Right. So that one is wrong. But other than that, I think if we fix that, I think we're in good shape.
Okay. Right. But so then...
By the way, why doesn't this have a random seeding option?
Most of the random foo things actually don't have a random seeding option, right? Like random integer.
Yeah, I guess that's true. They could have.
Well, right, but they're the things that sort of are, directly accessing the random number generator, right? So it doesn't necessarily make sense.
And they're the low-level object.
Right.
Yeah, random seeding is in the high-level things.
Right. Now, but before we move on, we should take a look at random sample and make sure.
Yes, good point.
Right. So and let me just explain, maybe this is obvious, but right, basically what random choice was following is sort of, what was at one time called the central dogma of, well, this is a symbolically indexed list, so I'm randomly choosing, a value from this list. So
I understand.
Yeah.
All right, random sample. So the question is, can random sample support the association case? Yeah, I don't see why not. Seems fine.
Right. So you wanted the association case to be equivalent to the middle guy.
That's correct.
And so it will now return. So now it will return a list of things instead of an association.
So does random choice, doesn't it? If you give random choice a second argument.
Right. I'm just saying that at the present time, random sample returns an association. So that would be.
I'm sure if I give 5 here.
No, it'll give you a list.
Yeah. Okay. But now if I say.
Right, because you might have repeated elements, so it can't be an association.
Right.
And that'll yell at you because you have too many. Right, you need to give it like 2.
Or nothing there.
Yeah.
I think that's totally random and useless what it's doing there. I think random sample should just treat it the same way as the random choice treats it.
If you add C goes to, 0.3 and you drop down, B or whatever, and you ask for 2 elements.
Here?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, that's...
Oh, no, I typed dot there. Never mind, it's not.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like, this worked, so... Right, and
I don't think that's useful. I claim that's not useful behavior. I claim it should do the thing, treating that as a weighted list. Because that's consistent with what happens that's what it's consistent with what happens in lots of machine learning functions.
So since this is the consistency meeting, and we're discussing all of these different short representations of weighted information.
Yes.
Where does weighted data fit into this?
What is weighted data? I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, we should be able to give that as an argument to random choice. And what is the relationship between weighted data and a categorical distribution?
That I'm not sure.
Okay, well, it needs a relation because it's the same thing, basically.
Well, you can, basically, the weighted data is just the data, and I'm pretty sure you can then construct a distribution.
I understand. I'm saying weighted data. Listen, we have this discussion coming about categorical distributions, okay? Which, by the way, Sushma, we need to get scheduled. And when we do that discussion, weighted data clearly is closely related to that.
And should weighted data take an association given how this?
Yes, it surely should. And I think weighted data, I don't think is properly supported in the machine learning functions. And that's another thing which should be addressed.
So random choice and random sample work with weighted data. So I guess it's not documented for some reason, but they certainly work.
They do work, okay. Okay, well, weighted data itself, I think, should take an association, but probably Roger should be consulted on that because it's his function originally.
Right.
And meanwhile, Etienne should be, Etienne is not here, is he?
No.
I'm pretty sure the machine learning people are at least aware of this function.
Okay,
How much they've integrated it, I can't say.
But let's check and let's understand the relationship to categorical distributions. Yeah. So let's hear about that again in another one of these meetings. All right, let's go on to the value of the meta information option.
Right. So we have this option to a bunch of functions.
Gosh, what a can of worms. All right. Now we were just talking about in connection with the annotation function. Were you there for the meeting about annotations?
I was not.
Okay, who was? Because that meeting is all about this, basically. Were you there, Sushma?
No, I don't think so. I know anything about that.
It took place on the 9th of August.
Guess not.
Okay. So this had to do with, we can go find when it was. That took place on the 24th of July. Okay.
Okay.
So I think the conclusion that this should always be an association is probably correct, but I think it needs to be done together with this annotation rules business. Okay. And I'm not sure that we even want to call it meta information going forward, as opposed to annotation information.
What is the general idea of this annotation thing here? What are we trying to?
It's for things which are, you can see, it's for strings which have like text element and so on. It's for annotating missing data. It's for annotating, you can see these different cases. Cell tags, masking in images, etc. Okay, so in other words, there are things where what you want to do is you've got a time series, you've got an image, and you want to say there are certain annotations that I want to apply to this clump of pixels in the image. Okay, and you don't want to go inside. In some cases, like in some of Brett's functions of visualization, we're perfectly happy to have a wrapper inside the actual, like a labeled wrapper inside there. But for other cases, we don't want to do that. Instead, we want to have the annotation be part of the wrapper, the overall wrapper. Am I making sense?
I see.
Okay, so if the question here is, should meta information always be an association? I think the answer is probably yes, but that needs to be part of this annotation meeting. Well, you better find out, Sushma.
Yes, I will.
Could you please put yourself on mute? Please put yourself on mute. I was making that noise. Could you find out who is part of that meeting and make sure that this issue is brought into that meeting?
Okay.
I think the conclusion will be that we want to make meta information always be an association.
Okay.
All right. Anything else that we have for this meeting today?
So are you in the prototype build?
No, but I can get there.
Yeah. So don't exactly have all the right people for this conversation, but I think we have enough right people.
Yes.
So if you type in.
I don't seem to be able to start my prototype build, though. There, finally, it came up. Okay, go ahead. Yep.
So do byte array of 1, 2, 3.
Okay, hold on. Oh my gosh, I am so confused by having that pulled down. And now it's got a dot. Sushma, could you report the fact that the 100% has a dot?
Oh, okay,
that's not a bug.
It is a bug.
It's not a bug as such. Maybe we want to tweak that, but that's because of high DPI support. Various things which used to be integers are now real.
Fine, but in that case, believe me, it should be formatted as 100%.
And that's already known.
Okay, fine.
And is it new that it's going it's showing on the top.
That's a new in the. I've seen that in the version 12 builds for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I'm not yet used. I haven't yet gotten used to it.
yeah.
Okay. In any case, byte array. Go ahead. Of 1, 2, 3.
Yep. And then do numeric array of 1, 2, 3. Comma byte.
There's no autocomplete there, by the way.
Right. So basically, I mean, a byte array is, well, putting aside the issue of whether we should have had something called byte array, it's essentially, a numeric array, a one-dimensional numeric array with a funny input form.
Okay. Fine.
Right.
And the problem is what?
So I was going to suggest that we make byte array look more like numeric array. So, right, instead of just saying 3 bytes, it would say, length 3, and then, we show like the first 5 bytes or something.
We're not doing that for numeric array.
What do you mean we're not doing that for numeric array?
I don't see that for numeric array here. I mean, I see, okay, so let's say range of 100 here. Okay. Okay, so we have the data in there. The reason I don't think it's as useful for byte array is most of the time it is just random binary gunk that has been, like showing the first 3 bytes in a GIF is not useful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this is usually used for. I
don't think that's true. I mean,
it is. It's what it's usually used for. It's
Stephen, as the person who's been leading most of the byte array development, I know that is not true.
Okay, what is it used
right?
for?
I mean, we have string to byte array. We have lots of things that come out as bytes.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying that I think the number one use that people make of this is they import something from, they pull in a file which is in some weird binary format, and they just want to have it be in the system.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge enthusiast of showing the first bytes here. We did discuss that when we first built this, I now recall, and I just don't think it's all that useful. I mean, if we could say, for example, if we could use our automatic identifier to say that this is a GIF or something,
Right. Well, what about just changing it from 3 bytes to length 3, just to be more consistent with other?
That I don't think is bad.
Okay.
Let's try that. Okay. Let's let's see that again. Okay. Right. Someone on the live stream is suggesting creating a neural network to find out who is making noise and automatically mute them, which leads me to a question which probably nobody knows the answer to here. Do you know if Zoom has an API that we could do that with? Nobody here knows, I suspect.
No clue.
Right.
I don't think it has a useful API. I think I looked, several months ago for some other reason, and I don't remember what it was, but it didn't seem much interesting.
We wait for that to be possible. All right. Anything else, guys? Otherwise, let's wrap it up.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks to people on the live stream. See ya.
See you. Bye.
Bye.